Welcome to the Rocky and Meisty Show presented by Jew Stool. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Let's get right into it.
You're completely missing the boat, Amr. You're at the wrong dock.
I'd have to say this. If he's looking to go to a new team, the last thing he wants to do is be like, oh, I'm not. No, he's got to show up. And he's got to show the Browns, you just lost $250 million by not playing, by not giving me that money. You're going to give it to him? Go for it.
This is crazy. Tyreek killed one of the Dolphins for 5 hits. Second to position. Should we end the podcast now? I bet breaking news. Should we end it now? Now or later? Which one? I walk out right now. Position. Hear it first.
That's asinine. You're crazy.
He's got the full package.
No way. I don't care. No way. I can't even. It's hard to even look at you right now when you say something like that. That's crazy.
We want to talk about legacy-defining plays. And legacy-defining throws. 13 seconds, and you get the ball in field goal range. That is absolutely insane.
I'm going to be frank with you guys. Mitch Trubisky is not a good NFL quarterback. He has never been.
Okay. And guess what? In basketball, you use a basketball. In football, you use a football.
Learn some Tyra. All right. Learn some Tyra 3-2. All right, guys. Let's get back to it. It's been a long time. It's been enough. I think we are all braked out. Right. It's time to get back, Meisty. There's been so much going on. I think the last time we had a podcast was week 2. I mean, how much has happened since then, right? We had our week 1 overreactions, and then we had our week 2 overreactions, and we've had a whole over a month. For the holidays, we've had quite a break here, Meisty. So how are you? How is your holidays? How are you enjoying football season? Your time off? How's everything been going with you?
Yeah, vacation has been fantastic. Not that I wanted to be on a vacation. But, here we're back. This is where we're at. This is what it's about. And I'm excited to be back. That's for sure.
Yeah, agreed. Vacation is needed, but it's not necessarily. Some people are workaholics. Some people like to work all the time, so they don't necessarily like to go on vacation. They just go on vacation because they have to. You know what I'm saying? That's really what it is. So that's really what we love to work all the time. We just do it because we have to for our mental well-being. You know what I'm saying?
Rocky, this is what I use Morty for. Morty's like, hey, vacation, January 3rd. Okay, you're coming. Okay, perfect. Thank you. You need it.
By the way, vacation next week. I'm coming, okay? You better make your schedule available. Better make your schedule November, October, whatever it is.
It was just off for like 2 weeks.
Just opportunity to get here. Yeah, 2 at least, right? Okay, more vacation, the more the merrier. No, I'm kidding. We love the podcast here. We really do. We enjoy it very much. Just sometimes life gets in the way. So we're very excited to talk some football here because there's a lot to talk about. And I think, we really have to catch up on a lot of things that have been going on last week. Although it was an exciting weekend in football in week 7. Are we in week 7 already? Unbelievable. Week 7, right? Week 7? Week 7. Yeah, week 7. And it's been very exciting. There's still one more game to go, Bears, Patriots. But nonetheless, we want to catch up on a few things that have been going on throughout the scope of the season. First, I want to talk about a couple things specific to last week. Number one, Joe Burrow showing up and Jamar Chase just absolutely tearing apart opposing secondaries. And by the way, we know the duo as Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, but that was not what it was, Meisty, yesterday. It was Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd. And if I recall someone saying before the season that Tyler Boyd was a good underrated fantasy player, but not to flaunt or anything.
Who said that?
I'm not sure who said that. It must have been a very wise man, someone that clearly knows what they're talking about in terms of fantasy football. But no, in all seriousness, Joe Burrow finally came to play yesterday. It was his highest graded game of the season, according to PFF, by far. And he's now slid his way into the 7th highest. He's now the 7th highest rated quarterback in the league. But that's only because one game can sway things, right? It's still 7 games. It's still a relatively small sample size. So one game can jump you up 5 or 6 spots. I'm not sure exactly where he was last week. Point being, Joe Burrow has now cemented himself as like a top 10 quarterback this year so far. And we had all these concerns about the Bengals, all these concerns. The big plays aren't there anymore, certainly throughout the first half of the season. Yeah, Jamar Chase will have his big plays every once in a while, but the consistency isn't there. The running game isn't working. But now all of a sudden you're saying, wait a second, the defense is a little better, right? This was the best game in terms of pass blocking that they've had the entire season. Maybe the offensive line will start to improve so long as they gel together. Maybe now the big plays will be there on offense, Meisty. What do you think about the Bengals finally becoming the Cincinnati Bengals that we know and love, according to some. I don't know if you love them so much. No, you do love the
Are you
Bengals.
overhyping the Cincinnati Bengals because they beat the Atlanta Falcons? I mean, we're talking about the Atlanta Falcons. Wow, such a good job. You beat the... Rocky, that's the Atlanta Falcons! I think I could put a team of Freedmans together and go out there and beat them, okay? So, you're just sitting here going, whoa, what are you... Dude, you didn't just have one guy go for off. Like, I understand when one receiver tears apart a team. That's great. The whole team tore apart them. It wasn't just like, oh, he had such a good game, Joe Burrow. Yeah, he had a nice game. But at the end of the day, you had 2 receivers go for 100 yards. You had 2 touchdowns to Jamar Chase. I mean, you had bombs, a 60-yard bomb, a 41-yard bomb. Even T. Higgins caught a 25-yard catch. Joe Mixon caught a 22-yard catch. At the end of the day, you're sitting here saying, oh, it's so back. The Bengals are back. They're not back. They just got crushed by the Ravens. They wasn't crushed because the Ravens' fourth quarters. But at the end of the day, you're sitting here overhyping a team that's very good. They're not back. Their offensive line is still awful. Okay, they still need to figure it out. And yeah, they went against the Atlanta Falcons. Who does the Atlanta Falcons even have that's available on their defense? I couldn't even name you one defender on their team.
The Falcons are currently tied for first place in their division. I'm just saying, with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the almighty Tampa Bay.
They're 3
Buccaneers.
and 4, Rocky.
Tied at first place in the division. At 3 and 4.
Rocky, don't tell Rocky we had Rocky. That's not that. Rocky, that means this. That means this. 0.0. Actually, negative 66.
So let me say, yes, it's true that the Bengals every once in a while have these games where like big plays left and right, like you're saying. That happens. And now all of a sudden Jamar Chase goes off for over 100 yards and Tyler Boyd goes off for over 100 yards and big plays left and right. That's really what it was a matter of, right? And Joe Burrow played absolutely fantastic. So I'm not necessarily putting so much into 1 week because defenses, sometimes it takes them a little time throughout the course of a game. Maybe sometimes you see Jamar Chase a few times, then you start to get to know him. That's why the Ravens did a good job containing him last week, right? Because they've gotten to know this guy. He's torched them a couple times. Finally, they got to know him a little. They did a great job against that Bengals receiving corps. So sometimes it just takes time to get to know and to familiarize one.
Rocky, I'm cutting you off real quick. You have to get to know a guy. There's enough film on every human being. We were just talking.
You only have a week to prepare. You only have a week to prepare for them, Meisty. That's not very much. It's 6 days.
The Bengals, your whole offseason that you played against the Bengals.
No, you don't.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You think more about the Bengals or about the Steelers or Browns, but not the Steelers and Browns, but more about nowadays the Bengals than you do about any other team. Who are you going to? Yes, you do. You play.
If you're in the Falcons playing in the NFC West, you pay the Bengals once every 4 years, twice every 4 years at most. If you no, my point is you don't really watch film on the Bengals at all, other than 5 days the 5 days prior to playing them. It's not there's film that's great. There's film, but you don't spend that much time scheming for them. At the end of the day, Jamar Chase requires attention, and Joe Burrow in that offense requires attention. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're able to give them that attention in that amount of days, which is why a lot of teams that aren't familiar with the Bengals struggle with them. But the teams that become more familiar with them start to get to know them a little. Doesn't necessarily mean they can't play well against them, but they start to have more success containing them and containing the big plays. That's the bottom line.
You don't think there's an analyst that's like weeks of film ahead, and he's planning how to stop certain guys circled on his calendar? I mean, you're going to sit here and tell me there's not an employee. You're sitting here saying that you're sitting here sounding naive that like, oh, they've never seen, it's 1957 and the only film we have is a black and white film from the only first week in film history. So and it didn't come in the mail on the Pony Express. That's what you make it sound like. Today we have millions of videos, angles of films. You know PFF. The PFF has access to this. Every angle of every play, right? You don't miss a moment. There's enough evidence for everything. So you could have all the content available, but the time is not there. You can't do that much in a few days. You just can't. You're talking about name me one defender on the Atlanta Falcons.
Okay, look at Terrell. Now look at Terrell. So the last 2 weeks, they played the Falcons and the Saints, and those were Joe Burrow. Did you think I wouldn't know a defender on the Falcons?
No, I didn't even.
What?
You're good. Keep going. Yeah.
So the last 2 weeks they played the Falcons and the Saints, and those were Joe Burrow's 2 best games of the season. I'm just saying. I'm not saying he's back. I'm not saying the Bengals are back because I do think that every once in a while Jamar Chase has these breakout games, and Joe Burrow looks like Joe Cool again, and this, that. But I am saying the last 2 weeks he started to creep, get a little better. The offensive line's starting to creep a little more toward average. It's not there yet. It's still really bad. Don't get me wrong. But the pass blocking has been a little better. The last 2 weeks he has 5 big-time throws, no turnover-worthy plays, not putting the ball in harm's way like he was in the early part of the season. Still, those big-time throws are there. So I'm liking the direction he's going in. Now, I don't think the Bengals are better than the Ravens. I don't think that's true. But I do think that it'll be them and the Ravens competing for the division come the end of the year. They're 4-3. They're tied with the Ravens at the top of the division. The other two teams in the division don't look very promising. They're good. They're solid teams, the Steelers and the Browns, but it's just don't look like they're going to be real competitors. So at the end of the day, all they're competing with is the Ravens. They win that second game against the Ravens, win a few games here that they can steal. They're not on such a difficult schedule. They can win the division. It's not the craziest thing to say in the world.
No, not
That's
at
all
all.
I'm saying.
No, the Ravens struggles, it's not the craziest thing, but it's not going to be an easy one. Not easy like last year. And the Bengals aren't a bad team. They have the players. The talent is clearly there. They brought in free agents to help them with their exact issues that they were having. So yes, if it all clicks together, yes, they should be able to be back in the playoffs, easily back in the playoffs. Hopefully, as a wild card team.
Okay, let's move on to one more headline, then we'll get to the surprising, disappointing news. I'm excited for that segment. I got some good stuff for you there. I just want to talk about the Cards for a second, the Arizona Cardinals for a second. Nuke Hopkins comes back. It looks like a completely different offense. Now, I came out before the season and said Kyler Murray was my dark horse MVP candidate. Granted, that's not looking very good right now. He has not been having the best of years. And Meisty was on the... By the way, I got to give you credit for two things, Meisty. Number one, the Vikings winning the division, but we'll get to that soon. And number two, you did not like my Kyler Murray pick for MVP, and so far, rightfully so. He has not been a great quarterback. According to PFF, he hasn't had a single game graded over 75, a single passing grade over 75, which is not good. It's not good at all. Now, what?
It's awful.
Now, his best game so far this season was Thursday night against the Saints. Nuke Hopkins comes back. All of a sudden, he has that weapon, even without Hollywood Brown. You bring Hollywood Brown back in, all of a sudden you have Nuke Hopkins and Hollywood Brown on the outside, both good, complete receivers. Hollywood Brown could beat a guy down the field. Nuke Hopkins can sort of do a little of everything. Zach Ertz has been a good weapon in the middle of the field there. I'm telling you, I still like the direction that this team is going. I still think that they're going to be a competitive team, especially in a division where the Seahawks are in first place right now, Meisty. I mean, Geno Smith-led Seahawks are in first place in that division. Granted, Geno Smith's been playing out of his mind. Don't get me wrong, but it's still he's been outplaying everyone in that division. Matthew Stafford, Kyler Murray. Who? If I would have told you before the season, you got Matthew Stafford, you got Kyler Murray, and you got Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance, and Geno Smith is outplaying everyone in that division. Well, that's exactly what's happening this year, Meisty. That's exactly what's happening this year. Anyway, point being that I like the direction that the Cardinals are going in. You bring Nuke Hopkins back, game changer. Hollywood Brown, I do think they're going to get a little better. That's it. That's all I'm trying to say.
Okay, let me hit you with this real quick. Let's go through the Saints' wins this year. The Falcons by 1 in week 1. Wow! Right? And their only other win, they beat the Seahawks. Okay, and in a crazy game, that was a crazy game, a crazy ending. But at the end of the day, once again, Rocky, you're on the same boat. A team with a lot of talent playing a team that's absolutely awful. Of course they're going to win.
Why are the Saints awful? Who said they're awful?
That can't beat a really bad team is the Ravens because they can't get nice things. Okay, so at the end of the day, we could sit here and say all we want, but I'm not sold on the Cardinals. I think that with Nuke back, it changes a lot, obviously. But I mean, he was always projected to be back. So what changes? I mean, yes, they should be getting better, but okay, Kyler Murray's still an issue. As long as Call of Duty is out, the guy's not going to play well.
No, I agree. I'm not suggesting that the Cardinals are Super Bowl contenders. I'm just suggesting that in a division where Geno Smith is clearly taking over, with Nuke Hopkins, who's one of the best receivers in football, and if I quote you, when we had a podcast about 3 or 4 years ago, talking about how great Gronk was, and I made a bold statement, and I said Gronk is the best receiver of his era. The 7 years he played, and you went nuts on me. It was hilarious. You went bonkers on me. And you said Nuke Hopkins is the best receiver in the NFL. And I said, that's correct. Nuke Hopkins is the best receiver right now. I was talking about the last 7 years. So we were both in agreement at that point, 2019, that Nuke Hopkins was the best receiver in football. This is 3 years ago, Meisty. 3 years ago. Man's not very old. So that's a big factor. You get a guy like that back, they can easily be contenders, Meisty.
Okay, time out. Geno Smith is outplaying this year. Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, okay, and the likes. Okay, no. I'm not trying to say.
He is.
My point is, Rocky, you're sitting here and saying like, oh well, Geno Smith is outplaying everyone. Okay, Geno Smith is what 4-3 on the year. Geno Smith is not anything special. Geno Smith isn't 5-2, right? Geno Smith isn't the Seahawks aren't special, right? But the Seahawks in general, yeah, they're good, but they're not good. I shouldn't say that. They're winning their division. Okay, look at the rest of the NFL. Everyone sucks this year. We literally spoke about it earlier today. You said
that's my point.
Stat that what is it? Rocky? What was the number? 33% or 22%?
Oh, the stat fantasy stat we had this.
Fantasy numbers are down over 20+%.
22% or something. Yeah.
22+%. In touchdown. And we were all hyped for this. Now, Rocky, I have someone sitting here in the room with me, okay, who has a tape.
Someone correcting you, right? You got the...
No, not correct.
No,
I'm kidding.
He's saying something about the Seahawks. He has a take and the reason why the Seahawks are good.
Let's hear his take.
Oh, we're going to bring him in. We're bringing him in.
It's a Pete Carroll system. The reason that the Seahawks are doing well right now, the reason that Geno Smith is outplaying some of the biggest names in the NFL right now is because of Pete Carroll. And as you see with Russell Wilson, what has Russell Wilson done ever since leaving the Seahawks so far? He has done absolutely nothing. Doggy doo-doo. Right? He's done absolutely nothing. And look at what Pete Carroll has turned Geno Smith into. He's turned Geno Smith into a top 15 quarterback in the NFL who was a totally forgotten name for the past 7 years. To say that the Cardinals have a chance in a division where Geno Smith is currently leading the division, I think it's kind of crazy to say, just because Pete Carroll has that system down, and Geno Smith is clearly doing very well in that system, and he's just tearing it up. And I personally, this is just like my own thing, I think Kyler Murray is one of the most overrated quarterbacks in the NFL, if not the most overrated quarterback in the NFL. The fact that he got paid, $230 million?
Rocky will agree with not paying
Crazy.
anyone. Rocky thinks he shouldn't pay anyone.
Crazy. The fact that
if you're Patrick Mahomes, unless you're Patrick Mahomes.
unless you're Patrick Mahomes. Right, unless you're Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen.
Right.
You don't deserve that money. Unless you have one of those two names, you don't deserve that money.
Correct.
And if you do, but
Yeah, so I mean, listen. At the end of the day, yeah, I think the Pete Carroll system could have something to do with it. Sure, I'm willing to accept that, but you have to look. Geno Smith's been a career backup. He's never been good in this league in his entire career. He doesn't just come in. He's the fourth highest rated quarterback in the league according to PFF. He has 13 big time throws this year. You don't just come in and all of a sudden become this incredible top 5 quarterback from nothing. He's thrown the ball really well. It's not. I mean, Pete Carroll could have something to do with that. I'm not saying he doesn't, but he's literally been a career backup. He's been awful his entire career. He's been a bottom 10 quarterback whenever he's on the field. So you have to give credit to him. And at the end of the day, with that being said, the fact that he has been a bottom 5 quarterback and bottom 10 quarterback his entire career, can you really expect this to sustain itself throughout the rest of the season? Maybe it will, but I can't expect that. I'm not going to expect that.
Super Bowl contenders, no.
Even to win the division, you're going to expect Geno Smith to play at this level for the last 11 games of the season?
Doesn't need to.
Why does it need to? The Seahawks. The Seahawks don't. No, the Seahawks are only winning because Geno Smith is playing as well as he is. They're not winning because of anything else. Their defense is not. They don't have a lot of talent on defense. They have 2 great receivers. It's true. They don't have a lot of.
That just rushed for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns last
Yeah, it's true. The run blocking has been great, but at the end, that's true. That's true. But at the end of the day, they're 4-3 because Geno Smith has been a top 5 quarterback in football. So the run blocking has been getting a little better. These things are great, but you have a quarterback playing at that level. That's why you're winning football games. I just can't see him sustaining this level of play throughout the rest of the season. That's it. I mean, I guess we'll see. I guess only time will tell at the end of the day.
The Cardinals could definitely win the division. I'm not taking them out of the race. But just saying, the Seahawks is our team.
I hear you. Listen, I guess time will tell. Time will tell who is.
Don't sleep on
right.
Seattle.
Well, you're saying I shouldn't sleep on that.
The bottom line right now, a lot of it comes out to whatever happens with DK at the end of the day. If DK is out, it could really hurt them.
He already went
factor.
All right, but it's.
He'll be fine. I'll be fine.
All right.
All right. Let's move on. Let's go to the. So now that we've missed a bunch of weeks worth of content, we have a lot of content to discuss. So there's been some really surprising teams this year, Meisty. I mean, starting in the Big Apple, you got to start right there, right? Because both those teams, I mean, not really in the Big Apple in the Meadowlands, but New York Jets, New York Giants, both those teams, it makes absolutely no sense what's going on right now. I want to start with the Giants for a second. They are definitely the most surprising team in football. 6-1. We looked at them before the season. What was their over-under? 7? I think their over-under was 7. I might have to fact check that. We were all like 7 wins. The Giants are going to win 7 games. Are you crazy? They are 7 weeks into the season and they have 6 wins already. It makes no sense, Meisty. And is Daniel Jones playing out of his mind? No, it's not like the Seahawks situation with Geno Smith. He's not playing that great. He's playing decent football. The run game is playing well. The defense is sort of doing their job. They've got, they've had some easy games in the schedule, but then all of a sudden they come to the Packers and the Ravens and they beat their Packers and the Ravens with some late game comebacks. Like, how do you explain the Giants at 6-1?
Rocky, would you say they're over under for winter? Sorry, Meisty. Would you say
was it 7?
7.5.
7.5.
Okay, you know what? No prediction. They're not even going to get there. Okay, number 2.
What?
So they won't even get to 7.5 wins. Okay, number 2.
Ooh.
No, that's too bold. That's we don't do Meisty. That's Meisty's too bold predictions.
Yeah, that's too bold.
But let's be real. You're talking about the Packers. The Packers who just lost to the team without a name.
We'll get to the Packers. We'll get right. No, but you're saying it's not such a big win.
Let's go through the Giants. The team that beat the Titans that happen to now play good in week 1. I like talking about the Titans, and we'll get to that later. The Panthers, who suck. The Cowboys. They beat the Cowboys actually beat them. The right. Cowboys. Who would have thought that they'll beat the Bears? Who are the Bears? They don't even have a quarterback. The Packers and the Ravens, who have fourth quarter blunders. And they beat the Jaguars with the worst quarterback in NFL history. So where are we impressed about the Giants here? That they're putting up numbers? Okay, it's impressive. Saquon Barkley's running his tushy off. Okay, but when Saquon Barkley's ACL tears, what happens then? Because every other team, when they're running back, the next guy steps up and plays well. But the bottom line is that Saquon Barkley is playing like an animal. But until he can't play like an animal. And just like what happened in the Cowboys game, he didn't show up, and the Cowboys beat them, right? So here we are. Yes, they have a nice record, but so did the Steelers in whatever that year was, and they went 11-0, and they were the worst 11-0 team in history, right? So yeah, it's nice and all, but there are other teams that I'm way more impressed with for being 6-1, and if you want to touch on those, I can guarantee. I mean the Jets. I mean, what the Jets are doing? I know, even with Breece Hall injury, what the Jets are doing?
Meisty,
Zach Wilson?
Would you say the Seahawks are the best worst team?
The Steelers were the worst. Who?
No, the Seahawks this season. They're the best worst team.
No, the Giants are the best worst team.
No, so I'll tell you. In terms of record,
I'm sorry, Rocky. Who do you think is the best worst team in the NFL?
So I was gonna say, in terms of record, I agree, Meisty, you and I are on the same page. I don't think the Giants are good. I think they've ran into a string of easy games. That win against the Ravens was impressive. That was the best they've looked the entire season. I will say. You have to give that to them. I know the Ravens have had late game blunders, but late game blunders to the two most prolific offenses in football, not to the New York Giants. But the Giants still have the 30th ranked defense in the league. They still have the outside top 10 in offensive line ratings according to PFF. Like they're not really anything impressive. Daniel Jones is still not a top 10 quarterback. It's not like he's doing anything great. I don't like their roster as a whole. They say they're playing hard for the new head coach. Okay, fine, that could be true, but I don't see this being sustained throughout the rest of the season either. I agree. I don't think there's just not a lot of talent on the roster. There's not a lot to be sustained. But listen, they did finish in last place last year, and they're in not such a great division. I mean, the records sort of indicate otherwise, but they're not in such a great division, and they could have a chance to win a few more games. Like they could win 9 games this year. All they have to do is win 3 out of the last 11 games.
Yeah.
It
sucks.
10 games.
I mean, it sucks that in past years that division for 9 wins gets you the division. This year, because of my that's who I'm a big fan of too. I'm a big Eagles fan too.
But all they have to do is win 3 games, Meisty, and they're above 500, and there's 10 games left. Like I don't think they're that great, but they've sort of put themselves in quite an advantage here, being 6-1. Wins do matter.
I'll tell you this, right? In their upcoming games, the only team that has a chance of that will beat them are the Eagles, maybe the Vikings, maybe the Cowboys, if the Cowboys want to see it. This week against the bottom line is the Giants have the easiest schedule. If they don't get to 10 wins, then that's an issue. I mean, they have
That's
to
my
get.
point.
I don't know. You know what? The truth is, prior to the season, if I was looking at the schedule now and saying, well, oh wow, this is the easiest schedule. I didn't know that. I mean, I guess I didn't even I don't know. I just ignored the Giants. I was like, well, they suck. But
Correct.
overall,
That's
they
what
played
we all
bad
did.
teams. They played some bad teams, awful teams.
I agree, but you touched on the New York Jets, and I want to know, why do you think what the Jets is doing is more impressive than what the Giants are doing? That's my question.
So first of all, you started the season with
Did we lose him?
Joe Flacco.
Oh,
That's right.
Started-
So you
yeah.
started the season with Joe Flacco, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And you got I know Joe Flacco had a crazy right, and he went what was his final record at the end? 2-1, 1-2. So
Yeah, it was 1-2. I mean, they beat the Browns, the last crazy comeback at the end of it.
Right. But a win's a win, right?
Right, yeah.
And for Joe Flacco. So at the end of the day, right, they went 1-2 with Joe Flacco. And since Zach Wilson has come back, they've not lost. They've not looked back. I mean, they went. The Steelers were okay. The Dolphins, they ran over the Dolphins. I don't remember if Tua was in or out. I don't even know. Right?
Who didn't play that game?
Okay.
He got injured. I think
that
that.
the Packers.
Oh, he got injured.
You're right. You're right. It's not like the most impressive of wins, but the fact is that they went from being the Jets, Jets, right? Who are just like awful, this awful team. No, literally just like a laughing stock of the NFL. Literally a laughing stock, right? To, oh wow, this is actually a serious team. Beyond that, I also think they have really good players. They have underrated defense. They made one of the most underrated defensive linemen, okay, in Williams. They have the best, if not he might at the end of his career be the greatest cornerback to ever step foot on the field. Literally, right? I mean, that's where I see him. If you said to me, any player coming out of college, give me the guarantee that this guy will be that guy. I would say to you, Sauce Gardner is that guy. I just watched with Gershon, right, over 45 minutes of Sauce Gardner highlights. And let me tell you something. We were just like, wow. Every step he makes, every move, every this, it's calculated. So their defense is good. Their offense is clearly good with Zach Wilson. And yes, they have the Breece Hall injury. So that needs to be figured out. So will they trade for a guy like Kareem Hunt? Will they make a trade for... Will they just ride with Michael Carter, who's very talented, right, and should be able to get to the same hole? Because, Rocky, this is your take on running backs. It's all about the offensive line, right? The offensive line is clicking. So, yes, the holes are there. But Breece Hall gets the holes. Will Michael Carter get the same holes? He should. Nothing should change there. So that's why I don't worry so much about the Jets. But what the Jets are doing to me is way more impressive because of Zach Wilson. They're undefeated. And they've just been steamrolling. They're not slowing down. Yes, they played some not great teams, but they're steamrolling teams. They're just done.
Yeah,
Neither.
Sauce Gardner has allowed one touchdown the entire season so far, and he's being targeted heavily. You know, so he's allowed 4 receptions in multiple games.
Rocky,
but
one touchdown, Rocky. That's the first touchdown of his career.
The only
High
one.
School,
Yeah.
College, NFL, one touchdown that man allowed.
And that was in week 2. Since week 2, he hasn't allowed a single touchdown. So, I mean, the man is shutting down his side of the field. There's no question about it. That defense is fantastic. Also, DJ Reed, the other cornerback, has been one of the top 10 quarterbacks for football this year. The Jets have the second-ranked defense in the league. It's very underrated. The Jets' defense is fantastic, but their offense is not. You know what I'm saying? So the running game can get going. Even Breece Hall's injury, correct, like you said, good offensive line, good run blocking, that can help them. The passing game is just, it's not very prolific. It's not like they have... Garrett Wilson's a cool gadget player, but it seemed like he meshed better with Joe Flacco than Zach Wilson, because suddenly Zach Wilson comes in and they don't utilize him so much. But just from that defense, the Jets are all of a sudden 5-2, and the Jets are all of a sudden on a 4-game winning streak, and suddenly, you have them... like the Patriots aren't looking very good this year, even when Mac Jones was in there. You have them like the AFC is like suddenly not as good as we think it is. They're not going to make the playoffs. Don't get me wrong, but like all of a sudden they can win a few games here, and it's an interesting proposition.
Rocky, we know this in history, and this year we were private messaging this earlier today. But defense wins championships. Period. That's like the statement. That's the bold. Right, everyone agrees. There's no arguing on defensive wins championships. So
I argue.
No. Nowadays in today's NFL, yes, maybe it's a little different.
Right. But yes, back in the day, right?
Back in the day, yeah. Hold on, I have to.
Now we don't see you at all,
Yeah, hold on, I have to turn the light on.
Pause for
Sorry.
technical difficulties.
There's there. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, sorry. So back in the day, right? The defense won championships. Now NFL is a little bit more offensive, and offense wins the championship maybe. But this year, it doesn't seem like offense is getting going. And as of things are going right now, defense will come into a huge play. Regardless, in the playoffs and the Super Bowl, defense makes the big play. Because if two quarterbacks who are going after Eagles Super Bowl is big proof to this. Eagles and Patriots and Brady and Foles were going toe to toe, literally 500 yards apiece, going toe to toe, right? And what happened? Defense made the big play. At the end of the day, you need a defense to make the big play, right? And the Jets are out here. Yes, sir.
There
Yes,
it
sir.
is.
Anyway, you have guys like Quinnen Williams on the line, right? Who has 5 sacks. You have Carl Lawson with 3 sacks. So you have guys on your defensive line who are making plays. Your quarterbacks are literally locked down. You have a guy that is Revis Island on steroids, and you have a guy who's just as good, if not as, you know what I'm saying? So you have everything you need on your defense, and thanks to the Ravens gifted them a very good linebacker. So now it seems like they have everything they need. Their offense just stays clicking and puts up points, enough points. Their defense should be able to make enough stops and keep the scoring low, and that's why I'm more impressed with the Jets than the Giants.
One more team. One more. I'll take that. I'll take that assessment. One more surprising team. We talked about the Seahawks, but the Seahawks would be my also. I mean, you have a backup quarterback going in there and just playing lights out. Whether it's a Pete Carroll system, whether it's not. Russell Wilson did not play well last year at all. After the finger injury, he did not rebound from it. And down the stretch of the season, even with the Seahawks, with Metcalf, with Lockett, with all those pieces in there, with Pete Carroll, did not play well. So Russell Wilson seems to be on a decline as an individual player, not necessarily within a system. Geno Smith comes in there, and we think Seattle's tanking, right? We think it's like not tanking, but we think it's a rebuild year, right? They're rebuilding in Seattle. All of a sudden, they're first place in the division, and now I'm not saying they're going to win the division, but Geno Smith is playing like one of the best quarterbacks in football. Like, if theoretically, which again I already stated that I don't think that's going to be the case, but if theoretically he were to sustain this level of play for the rest of the season, they could easily make the playoffs, Meisty. I mean, he is playing unbelievable. So I think the Seahawks are definitely, we discussed them enough. The Seahawks would be my last surprising team, if you want to add one more.
I understand what you're saying. I mean, if I was the Seahawks management, I wouldn't be super happy about this year. Like, it's nice and all to be in first place. It's nice and all to be playing well, but like your goal is to rebuild. Let's be real. They weren't out here trying to win. So the management is sitting there saying, "Oh my God, we're gonna actually have a good season, not win the Super Bowl, get a bad draft pick, and we're gonna be a mediocre team." So from the management perspective, this is awful. Now, in general though, it's very interesting what's happening in Seattle to me.
Yeah.
They need. I mean, it's not like they're super impressive. They're not 5-2. They're not 6-1, right? They're 5-3.
They're not 6-0.
But they've beaten some impressive teams. But they've had some very impressive wins, right? That game against the Lions, yes, their defense was struggling, but the fact is that they won that game in an insane game, 48-45. That's an insane score, right? Okay, they beat the Broncos, they beat the 49ers, which is an impressive win. Oh no, they lost to the 49ers. Am I correct? Yes, right. So yes, they've had some impressive wins. The Cardinals win is super impressive, but I'm not sold on the Seahawks being even playoff contenders. And when I playoff contender, I mean like winning a playoff game. Like, yeah, you made the playoffs. The Ravens make the playoffs 8 out of 10 years. They constantly make, like, not really, not lately, but I'm saying like the Ravens make the playoffs almost every single year, and then they lose. And it's like, well, that was so stupid. Like yeah, it was fun, but I was so much more happy when the Ravens missed the playoffs than when they lost in the first round of the playoffs.
I agree with you. I
don't
agree
care
with
if you
that.
missed the playoffs by one game on the craziest Hail Mary in the like. I don't care if you blew a 70-point lead and that's why you missed the playoffs. Bottom line is, you didn't lose in week 1 of the playoffs. To me, if you're a team that's like you're a guaranteed loss in the first playoff spot, tank.
Only because you mentioned it, Mike, I have to say my opinion on this. I've had this opinion for a while. I don't think it's worth it to root for an NFL team. Why? Because, think about it. even if you have the best team, the Steelers Patriots, who've won the most Super Bowls, right? You only win 10% of the time. So that means 90% of your seasons will end in disappointment. And that's only if you're the best. If you're the second or third best, you'll end in like 7%. You'll have like 93% of your seasons will end in disappointment. At the end of the day, you will always be disappointed almost every single year. And not only
Unless
that,
you're a Patriots fan.
that's what I said. Patriots, Steelers, fine. Even those teams, though, even the Patriots, if you look throughout the last 60 years, has been disappointed in 53 of those years, whatever it is, right? 54 of those years. 90% of the time, you're going to be disappointed. It's not worth it because it's stressful and people get very anxious when their team loses and it ruins their whole week. Odds are your team it's not going to win the Super Bowl. I'm sorry. It's just a reality check. Your team is not going to win the Super Bowl. They will every once in a while, but not very often. It's very, very difficult to win a Super Bowl in the NFL. So therefore, my opinion has always been that in terms of your mental well-being, to handle your stress and anxiety, it's not worth it to be an NFL.
So I'm going to counter. I know that this is leaning off topic, but I want to counter real quick. And this is why I want Lamar Jackson is one of my favorite players in the history of the NFL. This is why. And I'm not a big Lamar Jackson fan. Okay? Lamar Jackson is the most exciting player to watch today. Every time he takes the ball, you have no clue if he's going to like throw a pick six, if he's going to throw a 90-yard bomb, if he's going to run it for 90. You have no clue what Lamar Jackson's going to do on any given play. Okay? So to me, what you just said is correct. You're not going to win the Super Bowl. Period. You're just not. No, you cannot enter the season. We're going to win. No, you're not.
Correct. Unrealistic. Unrealistic.
No, all 32 teams? No, you're not. Okay?
Right.
Literally, no one's going to win. So when you have a guy like Lamar Jackson who goes out there and wins football games when he was in 2019 or 21 when he was winning the games, and he was so excited to watch, and every play he was doing something crazy or not doing or doing something absolutely you're just like hands over the head moments. Those were exciting, on your edge of your seat, constantly doing this. You're constantly let's going. That's exciting football. When your team is like hand it off, dump off, this that, win a game, you end up like in the playoffs, winning your division, like cool. But did you win 15 games? Did your quarterback just like do some crazy hurdle over 7 guys? No. But when you have a guy like Lamar Jackson who's so exciting, to me, I'll take this playoff. I'll take not winning the Super Bowl to have a whole season of excitement.
Okay, fair enough. No, I'm willing to accept that. I'm just saying if you're looking at ultimately the goal of a Super Bowl, you'll always be disappointed. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
But correct. I'm willing to take that assessment. Okay, so now let's. By the way,
guys, I just want to say that was a very anti-football rant for a so-called football podcast. Can we say something nice about football?
Football is my
Morty, you don't understand. The reason I think, on the contrary, the reason I think that it's not worth it to be a fan of one NFL team. It's because the NFL is so entertaining to watch without being a fan of an NFL team. That is exactly my reasoning. Because you can sit there and watch. I don't care if the Ravens are playing on Sunday. I love watching Red Zone the whole day. I don't give a darn. Tonight, I'm going to watch Bears-Patriots. Because it's Bears-Patriots. This is beautiful. It's football. That's all I care about. I just want to watch a good football. That's all I want.
I would be real with you. If the Bears and the Broncos were playing, unless it was Sunday Night Football, I'm not watching it. Period. I didn't watch Thursday night the other week Thursday Night Football. I happened to have been busy with the holiday stuff, but other than that, I don't really care to watch the game. Morty was at my house.
If you're busy,
I was like, stupid football.
Right.
It's like a bad NBA. It's like, I'll take this. Greatest NBA game you can think of. Okay? Worst NFL game ever. There. That's where we're at. Right? Like, you wouldn't care. Do you care to watch the greatest NBA game? Not really. Right? Do you care to watch Broncos Texans? No. Mommy's.
If our option was Broncos Texans or NBA Finals, I would take Broncos Texans. And I'll say that I would say Broncos Texans. And I'll say this. I'll say that if you're busy doing something, 100%, don't go out of your way to watch the Commanders.
Let me
versus
ask you
Bears.
another question.
But if you're doing nothing,
let me ask you another one of these questions.
Okay.
Kobe's last game.
I didn't watch
breaking the record. The biggest fight in Ball's house history.
The latter.
Guys, you want some breaking NFL news?
Oh no, what happened?
Breaking. Ian Rappaport reports the Jets are making a trade acquiring James Robinson from the Jags to replace Breece Hall.
I have James Robinson. Is that good? That's good. Is that right? That's good.
Crazy.
Is that good for me?
Insane.
You tell me, you're
What?
the PFF
I just
analyst.
said that yesterday.
I don't know. Wait. Is James Robinson?
I just said this. I lost my mind.
What did they give up for him, Morty? Do we have the details?
No details yet. It says draft pick compensation is going back to the Jags.
Okay, so if you get the details, we'll see you a little later. Micey, that's very interesting. Thank you for telling me that because I have James Robinson on my fantasy team, so that's the only reason I care about it. It's not impactful on the field whatsoever. Micey, I wanted to say that if you're busy doing something, then I wouldn't necessarily watch Commanders Bears. But if you're not doing anything and you're bored, then that's what I'm like. Sure, let's watch some football. You know what I'm saying? That's more. I wouldn't go out of my way per se to watch those types of games, but if I'm not doing anything, I would be happy to watch it. Is my point.
All right. Details.
It's the hottest player in fantasy right now.
It's a conditional 6th-round pick that can become a 5th rounder from the Jags.
Okay, no biggie. I'm not crying over wolf over that. We'll talk about the CMC trade. I'll cry over wolf over that one. So let's do one more thing. We're going to talk about Meisty, the most disappointing team in the league. And let me start with this because there's no question in my mind, despite the record not being too awful, the most disappointing team in the league this year are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's got to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because at the end of the day,
Let me get on my chair, Rocky. Hold on, let me sit down real quick. Hold on, let me get back in my seat. I lost my marbles for a second. Fantasy, 6 ways.
James Robinson, dead. Tampa Bay. How'd you get to the Buccaneers? Where'd you go from point A to point Z?
I don't know where we're at.
Anyway,
So yes, disappointing teams. Let's do it.
Okay, the most disappointing team in the league this year, no question, is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the reason is they're 3-4. They're still tied atop the division with the Atlanta Falcons. But they're just not playing well. Now, last week was supposed to be a get-right game. They lose, and then all of a sudden they're going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers who have lost 3 straight. And then, Brady in the offense struggles, and, there's a couple drop passes, a couple missed throws, and all of a sudden they lose to the Steelers. And then this week they just get P.J. Walker turns into Tom Brady. I mean, all of a sudden, I think they swapped, whatchamacallit for a day, Meisty. They swapped, abilities for a day. Because P.J. Walker looked way more like Tom Brady than Tom Brady did. Tom Brady looked like P.J. Walker. P.J. Walker looked like Tom Brady. All of a sudden, big throws left and right. The Panthers demolished the Bucs. And now the Bucs are sitting here under 500, and it doesn't make any sense. The Bucs have one of the best all-around rosters, if not the best all-around roster in football. Their defense, their secondary is top 10 unit in the league. Their front 7 is a top 10 unit in the league. They have Mike Evans, they have Chris Godwin, they have great receivers. Julio Jones they added this year. Tom Brady is still playing pretty well this year. It's just not gelling, Meisty. It doesn't make sense.
You said it right. You hit it on the nose.
They're not gelling.
No, with the Tom Brady. He's still playing well. Wait, I'm cutting you off. Something else is wrong, right? So here's what my thought on the Bucs is.
Oh no.
Brady is still Brady, baby. And I watched the end of the last game, and he was throwing it into the ground. So if that's the situation, right? And that's only the part of the game I saw was the end. So if that was the situation where he was really doing that, but he still had 290 yards or 290 yards, right? I think I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think and. So, in my understanding, it's this. Brady's playing well. Mike Evans and Godwin need to stay healthy. The defense needs to step up. And everything will click. And in that division, easily they can still win the division. I mean, clearly, it's their division to lose, by the way.
They're still leading. They're still, even with all the struggles, they're still leading.
Correct.
Right.
So, there's no reason why they still don't come out on top of this division. And you get Brady in the playoffs? Brady, that's the most successful person in the playoffs, right? Period. So... I'll take. I'm not so worried. I'm not disappointed. I'm not. That was. That's a disappointment. Not so much, but I can hear it because they're not playing well. But overall, it's not the worst situation for them to be in. And I also just once again looking at a schedule standpoint, they don't have an easy schedule. So yes, they have stuff to worry about, but. Hey, and this week's against the Ravens, so let's see what happens. Can Tom Brady's fourth quarter abilities do anything? I don't know. We'll find out. But I'll give you a disappointing team, Rocky.
But I want to say I'm not worried about the Bucs either. I just want to interject and say
Why
that.
are you not
But
worried about the Bucks?
I'm not worried about them because the roster's simply too good. And prior to the season, like I'm looking at it right now, the numbers are not very good. You have the Bucks are the 10th ranked defense in the league this year, 14th best run blocking grade, 10th best pass blocking grade. That's okay, but we're talking about a Bucks team that should be top 5 in all these categories, Meisty. They have the talent on their roster in every aspect, in the secondary, in the front 7, receiving core. The quarterback is still playing well. The offensive line was a top 5 offensive line in the league last year. Now, Godicke and a couple of those guys are struggling this year, but at the end of the day, they should be much better. So yes, in a bad division with that much talent, give me a break. But I'm just saying, if you look at it through the first 7 weeks of the season, it's underwhelming. The performance on the field is underwhelming. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, I'll give you a team, Rocky, here.
Yeah.
Although I said that they would struggle, okay?
The Packers.
The Packers are struggling.
No.
And they're not just, I looked at it, they don't have one of the hardest schedules coming down the stretch to the rest of the season. I mean, none of it comes easy to them. The only easy game might be like the Bears, and not even, and the rest is division. So, and I don't count out any division games, even the Lions and the Bears are division. So that's like their easy game, you can say. But the Packers have no wins that were convincing. Aaron Rodgers is also. This is why I'm not worried about them because they have Aaron Rodgers. But even with Aaron Rodgers, they don't make trades. They are the worst team when it comes to trading. So at the end of the day, they made a trade after the deadline one time. Right, and it got canceled. They got vetoed. They're the only team to ever have a trade vetoed in the NFL history because they suck. Because they submitted it too late. The Orioles did it too, but whatever. Anyway,
Orioles.
Right there you go. There's my comparison in management right there. Right.
No, that's a harsh. That's harsh.
Correct. Right. So I'm not convinced with the Packers. They beat the Patriots without Mac Jones, or I think so. Yeah. So I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh, that was super impressive. That's my one thing. The other question I have for you, Rocky, are we worried about the Oakland? I mean, the Las Vegas Raiders?
So I was going to bring up the Raiders. I think in terms of the Packers, I'm more worried about them than the Bucks because they don't have any receivers. Now, I think what's actually more concerning for the Packers this year, I thought their defense is going to be one of the best defenses in football. I really did. Like, now Jaire Alexander started to play a little better over the last few weeks of the season. But he was the number 1 rated quarterback in the league just 2 years ago before he suffered from his injury. Maybe the injury's hurting him a little, I'm not sure. Rasul Douglas, Jaire Alexander, I'm like, man, that secondary is fantastic. The defense on paper looks like it's a top 5 defense. It hasn't been great. It's been average this year. And average is not enough when you don't have playmakers like that. Romeo Doubs has been underwhelming. I thought he was going to provide some sort of a spark. That hasn't been the case, Meisty. And like you said, the Packers don't make trades. I don't know if they have a choice. They're going to maybe put something together for DJ Moore. I don't know what it is, but I do think Chase Claypool's not the answer. They're not going to all of a sudden start, winning games because of Chase Claypool. Like, if they start winning games, there could be other reasons.
Good.
Claypool's good. No, Claypool's a talented guy that makes a lot of mistakes. He's an up and down inconsistent player. That's really what Chase Claypool is. They need a big playmaker like DJ Moore. That'll make a big difference. But at the end of the day, I agree with you on the Packers. It's a little concerning. I'm still not willing to admit that they'll win the division yet, but I will say your call is looking pretty darn good. Your call is looking. I went nuts on you before the season when you said the Vikings would win the division. And the crazy thing about the Vikings are that they actually could be better. They could be better. Like, they're struggling through some of these wins, and they're 5-1 right now. So the Vikings are looking pretty convincing over there. Now, the Raiders are disappointing only because the Chargers and the Broncos haven't per se started off the season the way we thought they would this season. So this could have been a window of opportunity for them, right? We were looking at them before the season and saying, well, the Raiders have a good team. Their defense is more middle of the pack. They now bring in Devontae Adams. Hunter Renfro's all of a sudden had an emergence. And Derek Carr's been a top 10 quarterback for the most part for the last few years. But now the problem is Chiefs, Chargers, Broncos, Wilson, Mahomes, hurt. Forget about it, right? Odd man out is Derek Carr and those Raiders, right? But now all of a sudden, the Chargers, yes, 4-3, not looking so great, not looking as great as we thought they would. J.C. Jackson's injured now. You got different concerns. Like, the Broncos, just the offense looks completely out of whack. And so the Raiders had a chance, but you start the season 1-4, Meisty. In that division, the Chargers are gonna get hot. You just have to envision that to happen. The Chiefs are looking to be, their offense is still very prolific. Juju Smith-Schuster had a big game last night. Had a big game yesterday. So at the end of the day, can they make up ground? I don't know if they could. If they would have come out and won a few games, maybe.
Rocky, this is gonna really disappoint you. Let me ask you something. How disappointed are you in the Lions? I mean, if this isn't the most Jared Goff type situation ever, where like, yo, you're playing so well for like 4 weeks, and then nothing, absolutely nothing to show, no defense, no offense. What have they been doing for the last 10 years? And it's not like they've had some big name busts. They have some good goddamn players on their team. They have a trashy management. They have a trashy fan. I'm just kidding. The fan base is one of the greatest fan bases I've ever met, by the way.
It's unbelievable.
I've never met a Lions fan who was angry, and you know why? Because they have patience, and they know, and they've been living with disappointment their whole lives. So Lions fans are the best people in the world.
Props to them.
Lions
Props
fans.
to them.
Not that we have any listening, but but I'm not disappointed in the Lions. But like Lions, you guys got shut out by the Patriots. I mean, y'all just got rocked by the Cowboys. Y'all almost beat the Vikings. You almost beat the Eagles. You almost beat the Seahawks.
And that Cowboys game was a lot closer than it looked. The Cowboys game was a lot closer than it looked. I know, and the score ended 24-6, but they were down by 4 at the 1 yard line in the fourth quarter, and they fumbled at the goal line. Like, that game could have easily gone the other way. They were neck and neck. It was 6-3 at halftime. That game could have easily gone the other way. They've been competitive. What do we say in week 2, Meisty?
The bottom line is it says 24-6. And it don't matter what happened, it says 24-6.
True. No. That's my point. My point is no more moral victories. What do we say in week 1? The Lions is but the Eagles, they like sort of clawed back in the game and made it look close. They only lost by 3 in week 1, and then we said, we don't care. We're not sympathizing with this team anymore. It's time to win a few games. And granted, I'm not expecting them to win the division, but I am expecting them to get 6 wins here. And they're one in. It's meaning I didn't have such high expectations for the Lions. I still thought they were a lower echelon team. Right, correct. That's what I'm saying. Jared Goff is not the problem with Jared Goff is he does some nice things. Way too many turnover-worthy plays, putting the ball in harm's way way too much, mistakes left and right. He just like sometimes he's like, oh, nice sustained drives. He's hitting his receivers. He's going through his reads, and then all of a sudden, what the heck was that? Why are you slinging the ball right to the cornerback? It makes no sense. So right, it's sort of like what Tua did last night against the Steelers, right? I mean, it's a similar type of thing. Now he got lucky. The Steelers dropped all 4 interceptions, but at the end of the day, Jared Goff has also sort of had some turnover luck this year, and even with that, the Lions are 1-5. So
would you say that Jared Goff is, if they were to get a different quarterback, would they be doing much better, or is it no? They're just still the Lions.
Define different quarterback. Define different quarterback. Who's the other quarterback?
Let's say they had Kirk Cousins. Let's say they even had, I don't know, Ryan Tannehill. Someone that's just consistently not great, but good. Someone that can throw the ball and not make silly mistakes, right? Now, I'm not talking about a Patrick Mahomes or a Joe Burrow or Josh Allen's. I'm talking about a guy that just doesn't make mistakes. Even a guy like Davis Mills, he doesn't make many mistakes, right? So
he doesn't. You're right. He doesn't.
Right? So even if they had Davis Mills, would that be a difference maker? Or is it just like if there's any season in my lifetime that I'm in the history of my life, so 25 years, that I can remember that in that division, okay, that there was a chance for the Lions to actually do good. This is the year. You have a Packers struggle. You have the Vikings who can fall apart at any second, and you're nothing. You have nothing to show. Years of it. And like you said, no more sympathizing. Nothing. And nothing let it all for the Lions.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I think
and then they kept Goff. Get rid of the guy.
It could definitely look better if they had like a Kirk Cousins. I definitely think it could look better. I don't know if they'd be like a playoff team, but yeah, there's a lot of talent on the roster. It's more feasible. But one more team I want to highlight here. Then we'll wrap it up with the we'll do Rocky's roll call. We'll talk about Christian McCaffrey. We'll wrap it up. The Broncos. Now the Broncos. We both said before the season they're going under their 10 wins. They're going under their 10 wins. We both saw some overrated aspects in this roster. Thing is, the Broncos are one of the best defenses in football this year. Their defense is playing out of their minds. I mean, even yesterday against the Jets, you don't just look at the 16 points. The Jets couldn't get in the end zone, barely. I mean, teams cannot get in the end zone against them. They are really holding their own from top to bottom. But the offense looks awful. It just looks awful. from whether it's game management, whether it's in-game management, whether it's scheming receivers open despite talented receivers, Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, and all of a sudden Russell Wilson comes in here. Whether it's Russell Wilson's fault, whether it's the receiver's fault, whether it's the pass blocking, whether it's the running game, nothing's working, Meisty. Nothing's working in Denver, and even the 2 games that they won weren't pretty. I mean, we're 7 games into the season this season. We haven't seen anything impressive from Denver yet. 7 games into the season, Meisty. Now, I'm willing to give them time to gel together. I'm willing to do that. But at what point do we say, this is not working? At what point do we say that? That's what I want to know. Because right now, it's 7 games, they don't look good.
I'll tell you this. It ain't working. It ain't working, period. Alright? Unless they switch to quarterback, it ain't working. As Gershom said before, right? Russell Wilson was a problem. He is a problem. I've heard like crazy things from his old Seahawks teammates about him, where like how so disconnected from the team Russell Wilson actually is, and that he's never actually part of the team. Do you know that no one on the Seahawks ever really had his personal cell phone number? If you wanted to reach him, you had to call his agent to reach him. I mean, right? I mean, come on. I listen. I'm all for it. I'm all for like being a star, but like, come on, right? What are we doing? So right. That's where Russell Wilson holds himself. And if he ain't playing like that. He never played like that. He never was that. His defense in Seattle let him carry him all the way. This year alone, right outside the 32 points that they gave up to the Raiders, they have never allowed any other game over 20 points. 16 to the Jets, 19 to the Chargers, 12 to the Colts, 10 to the 49ers, and they beat them, 9 to the Texans, and 17 to the Seahawks. So you're talking about teams that score points more than scoring. So yes, you're correct. The Broncos defense is insane. That just shows you how darn awful that offense is. You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of like the 2000 Ravens when like they were such a good defense. And I was like, the Ravens. I would take the Ravens offense with Trent Dilfer over Russell Wilson 99 out of 99 times.
Well, the Ravens had a good running game. The Broncos' running game just isn't working.
I just said I'll take Trent Dilfer and that receiving core than Russell Wilson acting right now. The bottom line is, okay, that's not true, because I started thinking about all the receivers for the Broncos, and I'm like,
never mind.
No, wrong. But give me Trent Dilfer. Give me Trent Dilfer, Super Bowl winning quarterback, over Russell Wilson, who's not a really Super Bowl winning quarterback, because his defense carried him. So did Trent Dilfer, but so what? We're not going to talk about it.
All right, so let's move on and wrap it up here with our last couple of segments, and we'll start, of course, first time in 5 weeks, guys. Let's go ahead and do Rocky's roll call. So we're going to highlight the best player from this week, and it's obvious this week, Meisty. It's obvious. It's glaring. It's glaringly obvious. You look at the stat sheet, and you're like, he just led in every single category. Joey freaking Burrow. We're getting Rocky's roll call this week. And, you think, well, Joe Burrow is probably going to get it a few times. No, I would not have given it to him at any point this season yet. 481 yards, 3 touchdowns, 138.2 passer rating, PFF passing grade over 90. The man was tearing it up. Probably the best performance from any quarterback this week. Mahomes was also great, but we'll probably get more opportunities for him. Burrow, the way he's playing this year, I don't know. I don't know yet. Maybe we will. But there's no question Joe Burrow nearly getting to 500 yards, just tearing up that Falcons set. But 2 receivers over 100 yards receiving in that Bengals passing game. I mean, Joe Burrow, Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase, tearing it up. Joe Burrow getting Rocky's roll call this week. I don't even think it's a question, Meisty.
All right. I got a name for you this week that I was really into. And as we speak about him, I'm picking him up in fantasy. Oh, he's on my team already. See, he didn't have to do anything. No, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna say it like this: George Pickens, to me, okay, although the Steelers lost, his numbers overall this season have been insane. The fact that they don't just throw it to him every single down like the Ravens should be doing with Mark Andrews is insane. Okay, George Pickens last night was 6 for 6, 61 yards and a touchdown. Every single one of his 6 catches went for over 10 yards, obviously, on average. Almost, I think only one of them was like a 4 or 5 yard pass. So literally all of them were going actual deep. He had a 30-yard insane catch.
That was fantastic.
Dude, he's got insane hands. His touchdown catch was beautiful.
Beauty.
The guy's clear talent. I don't know how he fell this far. Where were the Ravens? Hi! Nope, nowhere to be seen. So, in my opinion, this is the man, and I'll give him the Rocky Rollcall of the week because he showed up for his team. He was 6 for 6. He did his job. He scored the touchdown for them. Yes, they didn't win the game, but how much more can a guy do if his quarterback is Kenny Pickett? So.
No, I like the George Pickens one, and it begs the question: why is the Steelers' offense struggling so much? I mean, you have Deontay Johnson, you have George Pickens, you have Chase Claypool, Pat Freiermuth, Najee Harris, so many playmakers there, and yet the offense has been very slow throughout the first 7 weeks of the season. I'm not saying Pickett's been doing a couple nice things, but it's just the end of the game. Some really costly turnovers in the last couple of weeks. That's really what it comes down to. It's not when it comes to the underneath stuff, the short range, the 5 to 10 yards. He's hitting everything, Meisty. But when he needs to make a play, he just hasn't been there yet. It's rookie mistakes.
Let me say this about the Steelers. This week, at least the excuse I can say for the most inconsistent, best defense in the league. The Miami Dolphins.
It's weird, right? It's
right.
Very
like
weird.
they'll shut the Bills down, but drop like 75 points to the freaking Jaguars. Like what? What are we doing?
Right.
So that's definitely a reason. But once again, the Steelers being 2-5, yes, it's not. But they don't know what to do at quarterback. They don't have a quarterback. They're in a tough division. They have to figure it out. I'm not worried about the Steelers. The Steelers are a franchise of a team. Right? Their coach is one of the best coaches in history. Their team is one of the best teams in history. The Steelers will obviously figure it out.
I agree. In the Tomlin era, the Steelers have yet to have a losing record since 2005, I believe. So this might be the first season, but I guess we'll see. Not 2005, 2006, maybe one of those years. Anyway, so do you guys want to talk about? It's already Monday Night Football starting as we speak. Do you guys want to talk about CMC now, or should we do it later? Let's talk about it now. All right. So if anyone does not know, Christian McCaffrey was acquired by the San Francisco 49ers for a second-round pick, a third-round pick, a fourth-round pick. That's right, there's more. And a fifth-round pick. And not only that, but over the next 3 years, McCaffrey will cost the Niners about $12 million. It's not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed money, but he's due $12 million in each of the next 3 years. This year it won't cost him much. The next 3 years it will cost them. The Panthers were looking to get rid of this man's contract. They were. That's straight up what it was. And in the process of getting rid of his contract, they got incredible draft capital. Second, third, and fourth, and fifth round pick. 4 picks for getting rid of a player's contract, Meisty. I mean, this is remarkable. The Panthers are a bunch of geniuses. Either that or the Niners are a bunch of idiots, because I think it's a bit of a desperation move by the Niners. I'm not gonna lie. I think the Niners are like, oh, maybe we can make some hay this year. The division's struggling a little. Cardinals don't look very good, as we discussed. Geno Smith is coming in here. Maybe he's a backup quarterback. He'll go back to his backup quarterback ways. Maybe we can take the division this year. Maybe we have a chance this year. So Christian McCaffrey is your solution? Christian McCaffrey. The last 2 years, the 49ers have spent 3 draft picks on running backs. 3 draft picks. That is Trey Sermon, Eli Mitchell, and the player they drafted this year. I forgot what his name is. They drafted him in the third round. They drafted a running back in the third round this year. Yeah, 3 draft picks.
7 draft picks on running backs in the last 3 years.
And 3 draft picks on running backs in the last.
7 now with Christian McCaffrey. That's 4 more.
Right. Oh yeah, 7. I like that. Right. Yeah, exactly. And by the way, guess who their until they acquired McCaffrey? Guess who their starting running back was? A guy they signed as an undrafted free agent in 2018, Jeff Wilson, who is their leading running back this year. I'm just saying. And not only that, Deebo Samuel has 24 carries this year. He had 59 carries last year. He's clearly a big part of that running game, right? So they already investing $20 million into a hybrid wide receiver running back. Great player, but he's a hybrid wide receiver running back. They invested a pretty good draft. 2 third round. You spent both your third round picks in the last 2 years on running backs. That's high draft capital. And the player you're starting was the undrafted free agent. What does that tell you? You don't need to spend so much on a running back. Don't worry about it. Kyle Shanahan's creative. He gets everyone involved. Look what he does with Juszczyk. Uses him as like a tight end fullback. Ayuk all of a sudden. 1 week it's Ayuk getting big numbers. 1 week it's Kittle getting big numbers. 1 week it's Deebo Samuel. What do you need to add Christian McCaffrey into this offense for? I don't understand it. This is your solution? To give up that much draft capital to now lock yourself into that contract with a very talented player. Very talented player. But at what cost? At what cost are you going to take a player that's not really going to add that much value to your team?
I rank this trade as probably top 5 worst trades of all time. Period. The reason for that is he's not the answer. He's not going to be the difference maker. That's not your issue. If you said to me at the end of the season, the 49ers will have 6 wins, I would say probably.
Not the craziest thing. Not the craziest thing.
I just looked at their schedule. Not the craziest thing.
Is it really that tough to schedule?
It's not that it's tough. Just off the bat like this, right? So
I'm
this
looking
week,
at it.
let's pull it up. This week they play the Rams, and they play the Chargers, Cardinals, Saints, Dolphins, Bucks, Seahawks, Commanders, Raiders, Cardinals.
It's not too bad.
It's not horrible,
Right.
but it ain't the best schedule you want to look forward to.
No, it ain't. It ain't the best.
Right? I mean, yeah, the Commanders is nice. It's nice to be able to see the Bucks now on your schedule with the struggles. It's nice to see maybe the Saints on your schedule.
It still ain't nice to see the Bucks on your schedule.
It's nice to see your Bucks on the schedule, I know. But outside that, so there's 3 games that that's nice to see. Yeah, go win those games. Go win some other games and we'll talk. I don't think so. They're struggling. They're a struggling team. There's mightily issues on that team somewhere. I think it's all from the coaching staff. As long as I know he's one of the best coaches out there, but I think there's a struggle with him. I think that he's something just not. They're not the right pieces are together. I think that all those players are very incredible pieces. Jimmy Garoppolo is an incredible asset to the team. I think even Deebo Samuel to a different team could be a huge asset. Christian McCaffrey, maybe he fits in there, but he doesn't put the pieces. And I know Morty had the best saying of it all. That was 2 sides of the same different coin, same coin, whatever you said. That was
Great point.
Yeah, and that's how it is, right? Yeah, shout out Morty.
That was a great point. That was a great point. Yeah, McCaffrey's also splits out wide, plays receiver a lot, So he's he's a running back that plays receiver, and Deebo Samuel's a receiver that plays running back.
It's not the answer.
They're not going to win. They're not going to win and make the playoffs because of Christian McCaffrey. It's just.
And by the way, the real reason I think they did it was because of the team they were in a bidding war with. It. Now it was the Rams, and the last team that. I don't think that's the answer for the Rams either. By the way.
No, it's good. They were smart to stay out of that. They were.
What do you mean? Because they only were willing to give up a second, third, and fourth.
The Eagles were also interested in the trade.
That's it. That is what did it. So no, that's what did it. A 5th-round pick did it.
Agreed.
So at the end of the day, right? Yeah, I think the 49ers were willing to go all out to stop the Rams, and they do get better. You can't sit here and say the Rams aren't a better team now with a healthy Christian McCaffrey. They are clearly a better team. Yeah. Oh, well, he lost to the Chiefs. No, everyone's losing to the Chiefs.
Yeah,
right?
that's not a big deal.
Like that, I'm not worried. How about let's go beat the Rams next week? Go to the struggling Chargers. Go beat the Cardinals, who are there's not a single team that they're playing, by the way, with a winning record besides with like a 5-2 record. Everyone they play is a 3-4 or a 4-3 record right now. There is all even. So let's go out there and win some games if you're the 49ers. I'm disappointed in them. I think that they could be so much better than this. What type of trade was that? It's not helping you. You gave up your future. You're giving up tons of money. And it was for a guy who gets hurt every single year.
Yeah.
If he gets hurt, now they have no picks, no running back, and then what? You think if he gets hurt again, he's coming back next year? Yeah, right. Yeah, right. If he has another season-ending injury, he's going to play next year. Yeah, okay. Good luck.
And he's playing at a position that is very injury prone. The average career span for a running back is 2.57 years. So obviously it's the lowest by far in the league. So obviously the running backs don't last very long to begin with. It's a running back, so you're very dependent on your offensive line, as we always discuss. So yes, are the Niners a better team? Of course they're a better team, but better to the point that it was worth all this? No. And we all seem to, in unison, we seem to agree with that. With that being said, 5:22, 8:22 your time, right? 8:22 your time. All right, we're not going to be running this time because it's Bears Patriots, but I'm still saying, right? Week 1 we ran out. Maybe who's next week? Oh, Browns Bengals. That's pretty good. Okay, Browns Bengals. Maybe we'll run out next week. But I'm coming to your side of town, Meisty. Maybe we'll have. Maybe we'll do it in person. Maybe not. I'm not to get everyone excited. I know those are generally our most popular podcast, although I don't know why that is the case. Beautiful layout we have here. I don't know why you think that should be the case. That doesn't make any sense. But anyway.
This is a spot that we can always.
Ooh, that's the Rocky and Meisty Studio right there.
Yes.
There it is.
Yes.
Next week, Rocky and Meisty Studio. We'll see you anyway.
I don't know what his insurance company is, but brought to you by his insurance
by whatever
company.
Insurance. Brought to you by that insurance company.
The insurance company studio.
like that. Insurance Company Studio. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Remember to follow, subscribe, Spotify, YouTube, and all that great stuff. Have a great day.